All right. Today, I want to talk about something that is kind of integral to most people's lives, and it should be, and that's education. Um, Education, or also just the educational system in all countries is different. Some countries are a bit more sophisticated, some uh, substituted with more money, some have even a lot of private schools, some have nearly nothing, some have not really good functioning, some have dying schools because not enough people coming through, so they don't need as much as earlier. So it's completely different around the world, and that's also okay. Um, but what I recently began to think about is how this colossal integral part of our life impacts our life. And in a simple way, it impacts our life nearly as much as our social life through these days, because the social life is kind of formed around the school life. Nowadays, it's also more online, I know, and that's some of the sad part. But mostly, it's still in the in the educational years you're living. And when you think about what you really do when you go to school, or when you go to kindergarten, or when you go to university, or when you, I don't know, you have a job, and at the same time you go to school that teaches you some key elements of the job. It's also sometimes like this, where you have this pairing. Um, it's most often the style of someone is a person in the room, kind of teacher, professor, kindergarten teacher, whatever. And this person has the whole authority, and this person knows it all, and this person teaches it all. And then you have all the students. We're gonna just take like an average of 20, 25, I don't know, and they're just listening. Sometimes they're answering questions most often formed like kind of repetitive, so they always have the aim to get a direct and correct solution, because there is one direct correct solution. And this is kind of the style where it goes through till, I don't know, high school or college. Depends where you live and what kind of state your educational system is. But at some point you will reach maybe a teacher or a professor or postdoc or whatever, who is more into it, more into just talking about the subject, and he really lives the subject, not just tests the subject if the students behind him are able to recall and are able to understand, but also like really going into material. And then those are the moments where, in my opinion, you're really lucky, because when you go into the material, when you go without boundaries, you just talk about the subject, like in history, where you don't really just have to recall the dates of First World War, Second World War, when it started, when it ended, how many millions of people died, and whatever. The most important thing is what drove this war. Who were the people that drove the war? Who were the people that kind of brought it to an end, and why and how, and what's the thinking behind it, and what should have or could have or already has or will change because of this event. And then you get real insight. You get real into maybe what happened, into what history says about the action, and you can try to understand and not just, I mean, if you're in a conversation about First World War, Second World War, or whatever, and you can say, ah, yeah, it started this and then, and it ended this, and yeah, this that many million people died, and it's okay, yeah, I get it, kind of cool. But if you could really talk about the drivers and the intention of those different actors in this war, and who fought against whom, and why were some parties collaborating against other part, I mean, it's just more behind it. And that's not just with history, it's also with math. I mean, you need to have the the basics understood, and I get that you have to have the calculations, but you can show people what those calculations are capable to do, and not just, yeah, you have the probability theory, and then you can draw a diagram like this, and this shows you it falls in the wall. It's it's you can always connect those things with real life, and I think that's something we kind of lost in the recent 10, 20, 30 years, because even though we think our system is really awesome and advanced, I think it's kind of stuck at a point where it just too much like a YouTube video. And if you think about where all this idea about school, about education, forming a system around education, and implementing different steps and all those things, where they all came from, it was a complete different idea. It was an idea of where you could ask stuff, you were able to try to prove, and you were also able to try to refute. I mean, you were talking about the things, you had to make up your own decision or your own theory in your own mind, and you were not given a pathway of, yeah, this is correct and this is incorrect. And it was just it was just more of life, talking to life, rather than facts spoken to bots. And with all those changes nowadays, with AI and AI learning platforms and all those stuff, I mean, we even take more talking and more conversation out of the equation. And if those children are going to go to school at age 12, 13, 15, whatever, and on the way to school they're on their phones, because that's the hot shit, and what kind of most of the people are doing, as we talked about in the last video. And if they enter the school, maybe they say hi to a teacher, I don't know, and then they just plant themselves in front of a device that is now the most advanced learning device. I mean, that's yeah, that's it's not possible, man. It's not possible that human beings are really at that point where we think having a device that improves learning by 200% or whatever. I mean, it just throws facts at you, it throws sentences at you, you have to correct, it throws objects, pictures, phrases, pages, whatever. It yeah, maybe it will start to talk individually with all those people. That will be kind of interesting to see what that will make. But for now, it's just taking one more precious moment of talking opportunity away from our life. And you will start to realize that people are getting more and more and more afraid to talk to other people, and that they will have more and more problem talking to other people. There are already people having massively increased problems talking to other people that have a certain tone or knowledge or understanding or capability of talking just because they can't really process that anymore, because they're just used to having people around them that say, yeah, you have seen this, you have seen that, and you've seen read about them or this, and they can say, yeah, no, it's nice and this. It's not a real conversation. You're not talking about any meaningful stuff, man. It's I mean, back more than 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years, people were living as well, and they were talking about real life. And I don't know where all this went, man. Within, yeah, we reached like within 100 years or so, we completely dismantled so much of talking, tradition, understanding. Yeah. And if you look at the numbers, increased suicide rate, increased isolation rate, increased violence, increased problems in school because of anger or discomfort. It just shows it all, man. We're not used to be confronted anymore. We're not used to talk freely anymore. We're not used to think from our own imagination. And that's just something sad I thought about. Even though our educational system has brought out many good and revolutionary insights or experiments or ideas, it's not all bad, and it's not all getting worse or so on. It's just the core element of philosophia, of talking, of school, of yeah, of using humans for what they were meant for, and not just to touch on a screen and correcting whatever. If you understood what I rambled about, it's great, and I hope you have many moments in your life where you can talk, where you can express your imagination, your thoughts, your visions, and you're not just wrecking your eyes with staring at a screen that doesn't really add anything to your life. I'll put again the Discord down below if anyone wants to join and have a chat. If not, good. If yes, even better. And yeah, as always, peace.